Tef. Have you ever heard the story of the lava shore? It's a tale whispered among old sailors and treasure hunters, a legend of immense wealth and even greater folly. It's not just a story about gold. It's a story about us, about the insatiable hunger that can drive people to the very edge of the world, and sometimes, over it. The tale begins on a forgotten island, a speck in the vast unforgiving ocean, known to a select few as the Crucible team. Unlike the tropical paradises you might picture, the Crucible was a place of stark, brutal beauty. One side was lush, a dense jungle teeming with life. But the other side was a desolate landscape of black volcanic rock. A constantly shifting shoreline of cooling lava that hissed as it met the cold sea. This was the lava shore. The island was home to a peculiar phenomenon. For generations, its active volcano didn't just spew rock and ash. It also coughed up veins of the purest gold, which, over centuries, were carried by molten rivers down to the shore. As the lava cooled and broke apart in the waves, it would release these treasures. The beach wasn't made of sand. It was a glittering expanse of black glass and shimmering gold nuggets, baking under the relentless sun. The local islanders, a wise and cautious people, treated the shore with a mixture of reverence and fear. They understood the volcano's gifts came with a price. They took only what they needed for trade, small, easily carried pieces, always offering thanks to the mountain spirit they believed governed the island. They knew the shore was alive, unpredictable. A seemingly solid piece of ground could crack open, revealing a glowing river of magma beneath. Steam vents could erupt without warning, scalding anything nearby. They respected its power. This delicate balance was shattered with the arrival of Captain Corbin and his crew. Corbin was a man whose heart was as hard as the obsidian on the shore. He had heard whispers of the Crucible on his travels, dismissing them as drunken fantasies until he captured an old sailor who, under duress, gave him a crudely drawn map. Greed, a fire far hotter than any volcano, ignited in Corbin's soul. When his ship, the Sea Serpent, dropped anchor, the sight of the lava shore drove his crew into a frenzy. Gold, more than they had ever dreamed of, lay scattered at their feet for the taking. They laughed at the islanders' warnings, seeing their caution as foolishness. Why take a pebble when you could have a boulder? Corbin immediately set his plan into motion. He was a man of brute force and crude engineering. His crew, armed with heavy iron picks and massive levers, began to attack the shore. They worked relentlessly, their shouts and the clang of their tools echoing across the island, a stark contrast to the usual rhythmic hiss of steam and waves. They ignored the ground that trembled beneath their feet and the growing plumes of smoke from the volcano's peak. The first days were a bonanza. They hauled massive gold-streaked boulders back to their ship. Corbin stood on the deck, watching the pile grow, his laughter booming across the water. He saw not just wealth, but power, a legacy forged in fire and gold. He pushed his men harder and harder, their exhaustion matched only by their avarice. They competed with each other, shoving and fighting over the largest pieces, their camaraderie dissolving into suspicion. The islanders watched from the safety of the jungle, their faces etched with concern. Their elder, a woman named Alara, approached Corbin, not with a warning, but with a simple plea. "The mountain gives, but it also takes," she said, her voice calm but firm. "It demands respect. Take what you need, but do not wound the shore. Its anger is slow to build, but impossible to contain." Corbin scoffed, grabbing a nugget of gold from his pocket and tossing it in the air. "The only power I respect is this," he sneered. "Your mountain can keep its anger, I'll take its gold." He dismissed her, and his men went back to their destructive work with renewed fervor. The first true sign of danger wasn't dramatic, it was subtle. One of the crew, a young lad named Finn, noticed the tide wasn't behaving as it should. It receded far faster and further than was natural, exposing a vast new stretch of the black, glittering shore. But instead of caution, the crew saw opportunity. More gold, further out. Against Finn's protests, they rushed onto the newly exposed ground. That's when the shore began to fight back. The ground, which had been cooling for years, was a thin crust over a network of still molten lava tubes. The weight of the men and their heavy equipment was too much. With a sickening crack, a huge section of the shore collapsed. plunging a dozen men into a glowing chasm of liquid rock. Their screams were cut short, silenced by the unearthly roar of the volcano. Panic erupted. The remaining crew scrambled back towards the solid ground they had left, but the shore was now a death trap. Steam vents burst open, spraying superheated water. Fissures spiderwebbed across the ground, releasing noxious gases. The very air shimmered with heat. Corbin, watching from a promontory, was not filled with remorse, but with rage. He wasn't mourning his men. He was furious at the loss of labor. He screamed at them to keep working, to salvage the gold they had already mined. But his commands were lost in the chaos. And then the sea returned. Not as a gentle tide, but as a single monstrous wave. A tsunami, triggered by the collapse of the shore and the shifting magma beneath the seabed. It didn't just crash, it swallowed the beach. The boiling water hit the exposed lava, creating an explosive cloud of steam and flying shards of obsidian. The waves slammed into the sea serpent, tossing it like a child's toy before smashing it against the rocks. The ship, laden with tons of gold, was far too heavy to ride the wave. It broke apart, spilling its ill-gotten treasure back into the depths, along with the very men who had coveted it. From the high ground, Corbin watched his entire world disintegrate, his ship, his crew, his gold all gone in an instant. He was left with nothing but the smoldering ruin of his ambition. The lava shore, now a chaotic mess of steam, churning water, and black rock, was quiet once more. Save for the triumphant roar of the volcano. The few surviving crew members, including the young Finn, were stranded. They humbled themselves before the islanders, who, showing a mercy the sailors did not deserve, took them in. They learned to live by the island's rules, to respect the power they had once mocked. And Captain Corbin. He was never seen again. Some say he was consumed by the very shore he tried to conquer. Others whisper a darker tale, that he survived driven mad by his loss, and that on moonless nights, you can still see a lone figure wandering the edge of the lava shore, forever searching for the gold that cost him everything. The story of the lava shore serves as a timeless allegory, though. The gold is a symbol for any object of our desire, wealth, fame, power. The shore itself represents the natural order, the moral boundaries we're tempted to cross. The tale teaches us that ambition without wisdom is just greed, and that when we take too much, when we break the natural balance in our pursuit of more, the very thing we desire can become the instrument of our own destruction. The earth, and our own nature, has a way of balancing the books. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more tales that explore the depths of human nature. Stay curious and stay wise.